Hi, I'm Rob Rue with Littleton and Rue Funeral Home, and it's been a while since I've been on Facebook and had a live discussion, but some topics have been coming up recently specific to the funeral business, and wanted to have a discussion about that. We've kind of just been diving into thinking about families and how they've been going through their grief during this pandemic. A few months ago, we decided as a business to go ahead and give an opportunity to the entire community to let them put together memorial videos for free so they could have the opportunity to remember their loved one. That was a simple response we did, but we have always been involved with folks following the service or giving them an opportunity to have some sort of grief program recovery that we can help them with. And it's called Aftercare. And one of the programs we've been involved with for the past few years is called Grief Share. Grief Share is a national program. I think it's worldwide that
Yes.
That people get to participate in, and it's usually housed by a church. As a company, Littleton's, we looked into doing that and then partnered with Liberty Baptist Church in Kermit Row and have been offering Grief Share for a while. Kermit Rowe's with me today, and he's the pastor at Liberty Baptist. We've been working together for how many years, Kermit?
It's been over 3 years.
Yeah,
now.
over 3 or 4 years. And throughout that time, you've been holding anywhere from 2 to 3 groups a year. Wouldn't that be right?
That's about an average. We've done 7 groups so far.
Mm-hmm. And why don't you say a little bit, you're pretty much an expert on Grief Share since you've done that many times. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Grief Share? Now, this is a program, I want to be clear, this is a program we've bought into. Mm-hmm. We've partnered with you about. This is not an original program through Littleton and Rue. A lot of funeral homes are partnering with that around the country. So
Right.
It's a valuable program. But Kermit, why don't you talk a little bit about Grief Share?
Well, so the Grief Share is an approach of you applying truths, timeless truths, to the spot and where you're at in your valley when you're walking through the valley of grief. Because you can't go walk around it, you can't dig under it, and you can't go over it. You gotta go through it. Mm-hmm. And so when you take the power of timeless truths mm-hmm. and apply them to right where the griever is, mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It helps them to take the next little step. Now, they could take 2 steps back. Grief is just crazy. It's unpredictable. You're walking through a fog. Mm-hmm. You know, when you're in grief, you just don't. Yeah. The stress on the body and the mind and the soul from the loss, you just don't see things clearly.
Crippling.
Yeah, it's pretty crippling. And if you lean into it the wrong way, you'll lean right into isolation. And when you're in isolation, you're away from any kind of help you can get.
Yeah, you kind of close down. The unique thing about Grief Share is it is a DVD curriculum program that a facilitator like Kermit or somebody else can be a part of, and they actually show the DVD during the program, and then a discussion is facilitated following. And it's a simple. The thing I like about this program is it is a boundary program. It has boundaries. You start and you finish. It's 13 weeks typically.
Right. And
right?
then we 13, have a 14 week for
option.
celebration. Yep.
And people in the room watch the same material, and then they kind of digest that and the spot that they're going through. And a unique thing that I found is that you've had some repeat people that just wanted to come back and be a part of it. Maybe they started early.
Well, sometimes they start in the middle of the cycle. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they start the beginning and go to the end, and they're just so deep into the grief that they just start at the very end, starting to be reached. And so, you know, when you're walking through the valley of grief, your receptors aren't working like we were mm-hmm. saying. But then if you go through a cycle, they kind of get them working again. And then the second cycle, I've found a lot of folks really hit their groove in the second cycle because now they're hearing what they're saying.
Because before they were just hearing on top of the loud pain of grief in their hearts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Grief Share is a unique thing. The thing I like about Grief Share is it's not just a once a week kind of thing. I mean, you commit to 13 weeks and you're focused continually every day a little bit on your grief mm-hmm. recovery because you're going to get out of it like anything in life. You're going to get out of it what you put into it.
And these are small groups, right?
Yeah, these are small groups.
These are tailored to specific. I know you've had maybe up to 18, I think, at one point. That was a big group you told me. I remember that.
Yeah.
But generally, these are just for 8 to 15 tops, right?
Yeah. Well, and this this last cycle, we had two live meetings in, and then the COVID hit, and So we took about a month's break and then found out that this wasn't going to be a short-term kind of thing, and we tried live Zoom, and we had like 5 people, 6 people, and because the relationship was already established face-to-face, I think it went pretty well. And once the power of the truths start working, it doesn't matter if you're in a physical room or if you're in a Zoom room, healing is going to happen.
Yeah, that's good.
But to speak about the 3 things, it's a 3-pronged approach, because you're listening to the experts, listening to the people that have gone through it, and then you're listening to those who have helped people through it in the DVD video, about 30, 40 minutes. Then you sit down and you discuss about it. You hear how other people are going through it, and you put your experiences in it, and then there's just a unity that comes into the room, that you heal from what others say. I'm just a facilitator. I'm just keeping them pointed in a structure, so that then the power of the truths can speak to them. And then they have a workbook that they work through, and it keeps them focused on just a little bit of something every day to get them focused on the recovery. Because grief recovery is not a one-time-a-week thing. It's a daily thing. And there's also helps online with GriefShare. They'll send you daily things to your phone to help you and things like that. So it's really this is what, when we talked about doing this, and we've been friends for a long, long time. When we talked about doing this, we wanted something that was comprehensive, and because it has to go through a church. And
that's the way that the GriefShare organization is. It's a Christian organization that partners with churches, and a lot of times there's unique relationships like this with the church. So.
Right. We thought, you could have it in a church, and a lot of people do. There's a couple of churches around, like Southgate, that do it. Grace Evangelical Lutheran does it. But we thought that put it on a neutral ground, with Rob in his little meeting house.
At Littleton's in a specific separate part of the property that they're not actually in the funeral home. So it's kind of a, what did we say, just kind of a no man's land. Kind of, you're there, you're familiar that it's a funeral home, but at the same point,
but it's completely apart from anywhere where their services might have gone. They're not just open to Littleton customers. They're open to anybody.
Grief is a community-wide.
It's a community-wide thing.
Yeah.
And grief is not just death either. I mean, of a human being. It can be a death of an animal. It can be death of a relationship. You name me one thing where you take a significant loss that you don't grieve. You just
well, why don't we transition right into global grief that is happening right now?
Yeah.
And one of the things that, as a funeral service provider, we quickly learned that not only are people coming to us with their immediate grief and pain of loss of a loved one, but they are coming in with an overcast of global grief and regional grief, and how it's affecting people around, how this pandemic has affected so many people. So it's heightened grief. So people are walking in grief before they even have a loss right now, and then the loss compounds that grief, and it's just been very painful to see people go through this. And then with restrictions on public gatherings, it has been a very you kind of have to navigate your way through how is it safe to have these gatherings. There's people that have chosen not to have services or memorial celebrations, and it's just been it's then you have grief, then you have I'm frustrated, I'm angry that we can't do what we want to do. This person deserved to have a public type of response, like a visitation or memorial gathering, and so that adds to the grief. So it's just, our hearts as our company, and I've talked to other funeral service providers, it's just been very difficult for people. And so within that, GriefShare has come out with a response to the pandemic, and is offering a program specifically dealing with grief loss during COVID, during the pandemic. Am I right, Kermit?
Exactly. And they've put out 4 videos, one per week. They're not 40 minutes, they're 15, because they're made for virtual sharing. And what they do is they talk about the time that we're in, what COVID has done to grief, but also they mix in a lot of the truths that you might pull out of the 13-week session.
I see.
About grief, and then you talk about it afterwards, 15 minutes, and then you talk about it on a Zoom broadcast.
So
basically.
so they keep it more specific so you can focus on.
Yeah,
That's
and then
good.
if you want more, then you can come into our regular
The regular.
14
So this
weeker.
can actually feed into, you have people dealing with the pandemic, and then you can go right into the overall experience of Grief Share.
Exactly.
Is that right?
Exactly. And as we know, it's just grief is an intensification of, some of your own personality traits too, and then you're dealing with this great loss with that intensification. And then you have on top of that the intensification of what COVID has done.
Right.
And people are not just grieving the loss of their loved
Right,
one. They're grieving a loss maybe of a job,
Right.
a loss of temporary face-to-face relationships.
Not seeing grandkids for 3 months.
Oh yeah,
Right.
that's crazy.
People have gone through. They come to us, Kermit, have had a death, and they were not able to see their loved one for the last 2 months, whether it be a nursing home or hospital restriction. And so they're coming in the first time they're seeing them. I had one situation where the squad had to transport. The family wasn't allowed to be there, and then the death occurred. And they never thought it would even come to that, and they weren't allowed to go with. So, and that's hospitals, medical personnel, safety forces. They have to do what they're told. They have to do what's safe for folks. But
Exactly.
It's still very difficult to navigate through. So
Some of the other nonprofits that I'm involved with, we've become very, very aware, and I think folks are starting to become aware of and mental health experts are telling you that there's so much damage that COVID has done that we haven't seen yet, and I think the grief theater of that is exactly one of the examples of that, and a lot of times if it's not just a death of a really close wife, husband, brother, you don't even realize that it's hitting you and affecting you in a certain way.
And as we're talking about grief, neither one of us are psychologists, psychotherapists.
I'm just a pastor,
I'm a funeral director and a family man, and you're a family man. And so, we're discussing grief as we've seen it through our lens in our profession. But,
Exactly.
There is a strong case for good mental health and the overall need for that. And we always encourage that as well.
And that's what I like about the 4-week thing that we're going to be doing. I mean, it
kind of opens it up.
It opens it up. It gives you a taste of what it is. If that's enough for you, that's good. Or if you see someone that you think really needs to see this, then you just invite them back in for the next week.
I was telling somebody the other day, just wearing the mask around with people. If you're a people person, I am, and I like to be around groups of people. I get energy from large groups.
Yeah.
And when you wear the mask in group settings or in areas, you almost feel like you're separating yourself, and it's unnatural, of course. The feeling is for a personality like mine. And then I said something the other day, I feel like I'm getting like mask depression because I put it on. I feel like I'm putting it on, and now I'm just kind of have to walk around and being around people. It's just, and everybody feels the same, or everybody feels in varying degrees of differences. And then, it's just so much emotional and mental energy, and just going out now, just doing simple errands and all that. So it's just a super different time.
Tried preaching to a camera.
Yeah, right. Well, there's a lot of people who can do that pretty easier than the people, right?
Those of us who are just small-time preachers, so to speak.
That's good. So a couple last things. I know we just wanted to be on here a few minutes and talk about this and make this available. So we think we put a date together that you want to start an online group share. Now, how many people can do this online, this 15-minute thing? Is this still specific for small, or
it can because we're condensing it. It's designed to be more than just a small. And it just depends on how many people respond. We could pair it off and do twice a week or something if we thought it would work.
So how do people get engaged with this?
So what they'll do is they'll just go to your
Facebook
website.
page. We're gonna put an ad on our
page.
Facebook page, and we're
they
gonna
can
put
call.
that up.
They can call the funeral home.
Yeah.
Griefshare.org
Griefshare.org is to learn more about it. Griefshare.org.
It'll be posted on griefshare.org, and then you can get information off of Littleton and Rue's Facebook.
So you would
page.
actually go into the Grief Share and then choose Liberty Baptist or Littleton and Rue, and you would connect that.
There's a whole
right?
list of meetings that are all across the country, and you can find out when they are, and what times they are, how long they run.
Yeah. So if you're watching this, you're not even in our area, which who knows?
Well, and the good thing is, the good thing is about Grief Share is you can join at any time. Each session is designed to stand alone. Like if we're 5 weeks into the session, we get into session 6. you can join right in, feel comfortable,
Yeah.
you know, and maybe catch up later.
Yeah.
You know, so.
That's
And
good.
I think this is the way that the COVID, special COVID, grieving through the pandemic thing that we're going to do is going to be the same.
That's
Just-
good. Yeah, it's one of those ambiguous. Like I don't know when this is going to end or how it ends or how it goes back to normal. It is. Somebody said get used to, the new norm, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah. So we're talking Thursday nights from 7 to 9, maybe.
right.
You know what I mean?
Online.
Online.
Mhm.
Yep. And the Zoom room, and then I'll send you an invite and a link and all that kind of stuff. Once I talk to you, just contact us. I'll give you a follow-up call and try to set you up.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
So, griefshare.org is the website that talks about what we've been talking about. LittletonandRue.com will have information as well as our Facebook page, which is, just look Littleton and Rue up on Facebook and you'll find all kinds of information and videos and things. Some of the responses I know that we've done is to make sure people have that virtual experience, are able to see services and have things like this. So I know we've been able to do that and offer that as well. So it's just super important.
And I just got to say this, and it's not because, I'm promoting anything, but the reason I entered into this and, pastors who are bivocational and have 5 other things going on is because I know Rob's heart.
Oh, thanks.
And I know Rob's heart for people. And I know that he loves people, and so do I. And that's where we meet when we get together, is on the level of love for our fellow people.
Yeah.
Human beings. So.
If you're in these jobs, you got to care for people to be effective. That's for sure. And it is difficult to see people go through something where you're used to providing a service or a message, and they can't respond in the way they want to. And so
they need
like
to really be
from
walked.
the beginning. Yeah, our hearts have really gone out to folks having to go through this, and then just dealing with the internal, like, what do I do? How do I help? But
well, that's the whole idea of shepherding. Is you got to protect the flock.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And if one strays, you go after the one and leave the 99.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's pretty much what you have to do when someone suffers a loss, significant loss. So
one good thing about where we live in our community is that it's big and small, and the small aspect of Springfield and our surrounding areas that you can get together with folks that you know or you're familiar with, and you can learn to establish some sort of trust and be able to have just a positive experience, especially with something like this. So there's a lot of people out there that are hurting, and not just with loss of a loved one, but also just with this pandemic response. So,
exactly.
Just know that as the business that I represent, Littleton and Rue, that we are doing what we can to be with you. I've talked to other funeral service professionals who are doing what they can to support you during this time, and just want you to know that we can do what we can to help. And I want to thank Kermit Rowe with Liberty Baptist to be able to partner with us and put this together. I want to encourage people to look at griefshare.org, and then also look for information on our Facebook page on how we'll be able to have these meetings coming up, and the dates and times will show that. When did we decide the first one's going to start up?
Well, it's going to be a week from this coming Thursday.
From Thursday.
We're
and that's going to start 7 o'clock at night, right?
Yeah, we're talking the 20th.
Right, and online.
And online, 7 o'clock, and then we'll go until...
And this will be a Zoom invite, right?
Yep, there'll be a Zoom invite.
And then you'll see the video, and you'll discuss that. So, again, you can go to the websites. You can email either one of us. If you just want to email info@littletonandrue.com or robrue@littletonandrue.com, and I'll get all that information to Kermit.
Yep.
And or just private message us on Facebook, and we'll take care of you. I want to thank you for watching, if you've been with us, and just know that we're going to continue to provide helpful resources for you during this time. So thank you for watching. Kermit, thanks for being here.
Yep.
And just know that we're with you during this time, and we'll do all we can to help you. Thank you.
God bless everybody.